Hello, and welcome to today's Wednesday Words, where I'll be talking about how to lift your voice for communication impact. So this Saturday is World Voice Day, and it's a day which celebrates the voice in all its forms: singing, speaking, communicating, presenting, all these different ways. And the theme for this year is all about lift your voice. Now, I think this is incredibly relevant, and it really resonated for me because this is what I do with my clients. I work with fantastic individuals and teams, people who are incredibly expert at what they do, very talented, usually high achieving and ambitious for their career or their business if they're running their own business. And yet they get frustrated because they're not able to lift their voice in the way that they want to. They're not able to communicate exactly what they want to, and that limits them in getting their message out there. That's why I developed my programs, and I have a particular program that I use for my individual coaching clients, which is 9 steps to communication confidence. In this program, I work with people to help them enhance their confidence, which expands their impact and influence, which really gives them results, which has that effect on their career or in their business growth. And that is incredibly important because it's not just communication for communication's sake. It's about having the end goal in sight. So with today's focus around lift your voice for World Voice Day, I wanted to share some particular tips about how to use your voice more effectively and how to think about how to use your voice in a way which really gives you that impact, however you're talking, whether it's in a presentation, in a formal meeting, or even in a speech. So let's talk about the techniques. Let's start with technique number 1. So technique number 1 is really about focusing attention through pace and pauses. So first of all, why? Why do we want to do this? Well, if we use our voice effectively, then actually we get more engagement. People actually pay attention to our words and our message. And that is really important. In a world where there is a lot of distraction, particularly in virtual communication, where people are often trying to do several things at the same time, your communication and voice has the ability to cut through and really connect with the other person so that they really listen to what you have to say. And I think that's incredibly important because you want to engage with people. You want them to hear your message. You want them to take away the key points and maybe take a next step or action. So that is why it's important. So coming back to pace and pauses, how do we do this effectively? Well, I know that when people are nervous, they tend to speed up. And that happens to me as well. So I'm human like everybody else. So in situations where we need to communicate effectively, we may feel that pressure. And that tends to make us want to rush what we're saying. It's particularly true, actually, around when you say your name, perhaps at the beginning of a presentation or when you're introducing yourself. Because our name is so familiar to us, we tend to say this very quickly. But then it might be difficult for other people to understand that name. So from the very first moments, pause, breathe, smile, and slow it down so that your voice can really have that impact and people can listen to the message and understand truly what you're trying to say. Now, you can just be aware of it and you can slow down and make sure that you pause regularly. But if this is for a more formal speech or presentation, the other thing that you can do is actually prepare for that. So what I do with my clients who are doing this is that they have their presentation, what they want to say, or their speech written out. And then we actually physically mark where are they going to pause. And you can do this by creating a line break in the text. So it just reminds you, pause here before moving on. Yes, pauses happen naturally at the end of sentences, but also think about where you can pause to create focus and attention. So that's the first technique, pace and pauses. The second technique is emphasis for keywords. Now, if you imagine that you're writing an email, then we have lots of techniques available to us to emphasize what are the key points. We might, for example, in the text, make it bold. We might underline it. We might put italics. We can even change the shape of the text, make it bigger or more colorful, for example. And of course, we have lots of other formatting techniques, such as bullet points and new paragraphs, that makes it very clear to the reader of that email what's important within this email, within this text. Now, I think we can do this as well with our voice. Again, we just need to learn the techniques to do this so that we can be absolutely clear about how we can deliver that emphasis. If you listen to speakers who are experienced and maybe even watch TED Talks, then you'll notice that people do these techniques. They are great ways, again, to focus attention, make sure your message lands clearly and in the way that you want. So how do we do it? There are 3 key ways to emphasize your key points. The first way to do this is to, with a word or a couple of words, is to slow the word down. So that's the first technique, slow it down. And because that's unexpected compared to the rest of the pace of your speech, that creates focus. The second technique is that you make the word or group of words sound louder, and you raise your voice and make it louder in volume. So that's another way to do this. The final way is that you make your voice go up at the end. And this technique is about creating anticipation. So the audience, when your voice goes up at the end, it creates a sense of, something is coming after this. So they're going to kind of listen very carefully. What is the next point you're about to share? So those 3 techniques are describing, but today I wanted to also give you a very short example. So it's a short part of a speech, and I just wanted to demonstrate all of the techniques from today. So the pace, the pauses, and also how to emphasize keywords. So I've prepared this because this is going to be easier for me to deliver this to you. So I'm going to read this, but you listen to how I'm using the techniques as a way to focus attention, get you listening very carefully, and create more impact with my message. Okay, so I'll start. When we experience communication from others that does not match our assumptions and expectations, we try to interpret the meaning and intention by applying how we would react in the same situation. But this can lead us down the wrong path. So that's just a really short example, but I wanted to give you a sense of how it comes to life and how you could use it as part of your planning for your communication, for presentations, for speeches, for more formal meetings. So there you go. Key techniques to lift your voice. What are you going to put into practice in the next few days? I highly encourage you to do this. Speak up, share your message, and get the engagement going by really making sure you're using your voice effectively. And if you're ready to take the next step on your journey to communication confidence through your voice and all the other communication strategies that I work with, then please set up a discovery call with me to talk about my individual coaching program, 9 Steps to Communication Confidence. This structured 90-day program takes you through all the key tools that you need to be able to communicate confidently in your business situations. It helps you understand where you are today, where you need to focus and practice, and how to implement this so you can fast track your communication strategies that really will have the impact in your career and business that you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today for Wednesday Words, where we've talked about how to lift your voice. I do hope that you lift your voice, not just for World Voice Day this Saturday, but for every day. Look forward to seeing you next time on Wednesday Words. I'm Victoria Reynoldson, Communication and Culture Coach.